Oh my God, has this been a hell of a week, or has this been a hell of a week? Post CitizenCon week, there's been just a ton of information flowing around here. I had a bunch of questions coming out of CitizenCon, but I kind of wanted to wait to make this video until they had their follow-up video, which it came in the form of a reverse the verse that they released a couple days ago. So it did answer some of my questions, but there was a lot more questions that kind of came out of that. So I kind of wanted to have the conversation with you guys and kind of run these ideas and questions past you guys and see what you thought. For CitizenCon, I kind of want to just note that a lot of people kind of sounded disappointed because of it. And I think a lot of it had to do with they didn't show the Squadron 42 stuff. But I noticed they just released a Squadron 42 video, which I'm actually separating from this because I had a bunch of questions for CitizenCon. So after this, I actually haven't watched that video, so I'm gonna do a discussion and reaction video for that next. But I do want to separate it out. I just want to kind of deal with the questions for CitizenCon first. But it seemed like a lot of people, and it might have just been the vocal minority, but seemed like a lot of people took issue with CitizenCon in certain ways. I personally, that was my first CitizenCon, so it was fun, and I know a lot of the stuff was scripted, but it was kind of fun seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time. Like the biomes, that just does a ton for realism, so that biome stuff blew me away. All good stuff. Anyway, I do have some questions which I wanted to kind of throw past you guys. First of which is the tool set that they introduced. And I know as of right now, that tool set is very much internal, and they're using it to kind of add the last 10% of detail to the planets and stuff. But I was wondering if maybe down the line they would, if you guys heard anything, that maybe they would consider releasing the tool set for public use, and maybe not. Maybe they would give us like maybe a a public playground, or like maybe a local on your machine playground that you can kind of mess around with the tools. That'd be really fun. I was a big map maker back in the day for various games, so I would love to get my hands on that stuff. And they could even down the line, they could even have like future planets and stuff that they add to the universe or down the line in year 7 or 8, but those could possibly be user generated, like maybe fan generated that wins a contest or something. So, releasing those tools would kind of give us the ability to do that. Obviously I don't expect it anytime soon, but it would be kind of cool if they considered releasing the tools public at some point in the future. For Spectrum, it sounds, not much to say about it. It sounds awesome, right? It sounds like a mix between Discord and, as they said, Facebook. Like, it's fully functional. The launcher is going to become Spectrum, fully functional communication system for organizations and everything else. But so that all sounds good. However, what I was wondering about was if there was anything Spectrum could do to kind of take the role-playing side of Star Citizen to the next level. And the first thing that popped in my mind was like voice modification or voice modulation. So maybe since it's outside of the game, like I can apply, like maybe it's a role-playing guild and I play like a robotic character or something in game. So is there any kind of like maybe a robotic modulation I could add to my voice, so my actual voice isn't used, but they have like this twinge of like a robotic thing, or maybe like add like a deep bass voice, right, or something, or maybe like even might be extreme, but even attempting like to maybe cross gender modulations and stuff like that. It'd be kind of cool. Like that would go a long way to like adding some uniqueness to the role playing. And if Spectrum is every bit as next generation as they're saying, it'd be kind of cool to add some new features like that. Curious to hear from you guys if there's any other ideas for role playing that they could add in. Also, a shout out in the beginning, shout out to Chris. We kind of talked about this in the stream originally, but Chris, shout out for the honesty he kind of laid down the ground about, really buying the more expensive, fancier ships is all about kind of supporting development. So I had a conversation with my friend, and this came up. Is there any concern about like the perception that people, that it's kind of like pay to win now? I haven't really dug into kind of what people feel about that. So I guess my question is, has there been any communication about how long it would take to kind of build or earn certain ships, like a $400 level ship or like a $100 level ship, or the new, the newer ships that cost like $700-800, the capital ships, whatever they are? Is there any word kind of on what kind of advantage that would be for a person to have that going into launch versus someone having to earn it? People that are just starting the game that didn't drop any real money into this game, can they have the same thing on a smaller scale, maybe not a multi-crew ship. So I was kind of curious about that. They also mentioned facial scanning, and I'm kind of, because this is kind of like, this has always been a thing for me, right? So when they talk about facial scanning, they actually talking about lip sync as well, or are they just talking like facial expressions and movements and stuff like that? Is the community, are you guys expecting more toward what we saw recently in Kingsglaive, where, sorry guys, I enjoyed the action, but the lip sync was left a lot to be desired. So are we expecting kind of something, you know, not as polished as that? Or are you guys expecting something more toward like LA Noire? And I know LA Noire had its own set of like technology that went into that, but what side of the scale are you guys expecting the lip sync to, for like Squadron 42 especially? So as I mentioned, I think everyone knows that the sandstorm and the timing of the sandstorm, the sandworms were all scripted for the purposes of kind of showing off the demo, but not so much the dynamic weather, because that can kind of come in at any time. But do you guys think that the stuff like the sandworm or these mini action set pieces, do you think that will be dynamic? Do you think that there will be sandworms on some planets, and those sandworms will randomly come up and attack someone that's flying by in a speeder? Like, do you guys think that's going to be a thing, or do you think they'll just be like randomly coming up here and there? Actually, Godin the Killer mentioned in the comments section on one the stream video I did. He does remember the dev describing kind of all the dynamic weather effects and like Hoth style, you know, storms coming in. So I don't have a concern really for the dynamic weather effects. It's more about like the sandworms type of stuff, like the little momentary, moment by moment action, dynamic, random action, points of action that can occur. So curious about that. All the first person stuff, it did lead me to a question though that I realized I was kind of ignorant, and I have done a little bit of the first person exploration, but I never actually died, so I've crashed, but not like the client crashed. But what happens when you die in first person mode? Like, do you actually, and what happens to your ship, and where do you respawn or whatever? And like I know what happens when your ship goes down, but what about first person mode? How do they handle that right now, or will they handle that? For CitizenCon, the last question I had was, in the 3.0 roadmap, they mentioned in 3.0 they're going to have basic professions. So my question out of that is there any word on how basic they're going to be? And I'll take mining as an example. By basic professions, do they mean that mining is a basic profession and it will be fully functional in 3.0, or is the basic functionality of professions going to be delivered in 3.0, meaning mining will be introduced, but only some basic functionality within mining will be available in 3.0? That's a question I had on that. That came out, I had all those questions, and then kind of, again, as I said, Reverse the Verse came out, answered a lot of my questions, but there were some additional questions that came out of Reverse the Verse, which I kind of want to run past you guys now as well. The first being individual registration of ships. They mentioned you can individually register a ship for an organization. So I have 3 ships. 2 of them are registered with Organization X. Can I keep, barring the fact that someone might actually see me get into it and make the link, would I be able to kind of use that ship? And is there any way that an organization will be able to find out that I have this 3rd ship, or is it a good possibility I can kind of keep it under the radar for like spy purposes? That was something interesting that kind of came out of that. For the app and Spectrum, they mentioned the app and kind of cool stuff you could do, like sync up for meetings with your friend and group up before you get home, like through your app, right? But do you think they'll actually take that, the money transfers? I guess they mentioned money transfers too, I believe. But do you think they'll be able to kind of in the future do other stuff, like more in-game functions, like repair your ship, or I don't know, even shop from certain stores? If you pay extra, you have like digital access through the network or something. Just trying to think of how detailed this can get. I always appreciate it in games when you can kind of perform in-game functions from your app. I always seemed kind of, thought it was pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they take that. On the network side of things, they mentioned there was a network rewrite which will kind of increase the overall efficiency. But Tony was specifically mentioned a larger kind of unified network model where all the players could exist together in harmony, right? Da, da, da. And then after that, kind of Chris backed off a little bit. It seemed like Chris backed off a little bit and kind of set expectations that they'll probably still have to do instancing with like larger amounts of people. So my question on this is, where does this leave the state of large epic battles? Organization X, 5,000 people. Organization Y, another 5,000 people. It comes to a single point of conflict in a single system above a single planet. Boom. All together, 10,000 people, right? Does it sound like they're going to get to a place where they can handle that? If not, I mean, obviously you can't have like 10,000 people instanced off into like sets of 200 or 300 or 1,000, right? Because that's a segmented battle. You can't really strategize there. So is it going to be more what they're aiming for this unified network model? Is it going to be more like they have 7 servers that they've scaled up to that's handling this one chunk of space because there's an overwhelming number of players that came here, and there'll be this real-time scaling of all these other additional servers that kind of come into the fold here just to handle that? Is that what they're aiming for? That was the clarification. If so, we're on the right track. We're absolutely on the right track for this. They mentioned that a lot of other companies are trying to do this too, so I'm hoping. Here's the hoping. On that point, they also mentioned kind of the natural gates they were going to put into place, which sounded kind of like next gen from what we've seen in current games. The interesting concept they brought up at right then was in the example was a bar. Like you want to go into a bar, but it happens to be the bar is closed or under renovations or something like that. I'm really excited to see where kind of they do this, and I hope they take advantage of it and they kind of introduce, maybe even take the opportunity to introduce like additional pieces of lore or like storylines, or even use that to branch off into like a different mission. Like you can only get this mission if this area is closed, this bar is closed, right? And that mission leads to like a whole different thing. Maybe it's even related. It's like an alternate unit path you can take if you don't go into the bar. You know what I mean? So I'm really excited to see where. I love the idea of the natural gates just to help with kind of the network efficiency and controlling people. So I'm excited to see where they kind of take that. They mentioned chat bots as well, and that kind of got me thinking broadly. And they could kind of use chat bots. They can take that kind of technology, maybe even move it into the game. I was thinking about like some. We've seen it in Hollywood all the time, right? You walk by and this hologram pops up, and the hologram says, "Oh, hey, you're part of Organization X. Don't forget the meeting tonight at 7 o'clock, right?" Or something like that. Or they're meeting in Benny's Burgers. You know what I mean? That would be kind of cool. But I'm actually let me throw a different idea past you guys. What do you guys think of like a possible like in-game advertising ecosystem, or is that kind of like approaching reality too much? You know, I'm thinking like kind of a mechanism, almost like a mechanism where organizations can kind of reach out to find new players and stuff like that. So there's in-game methods of advertising, whether it's a billboard above a Alistair, you know, so any big hub, you know what I mean? Maybe they could purchase that, or they can even like, I mean, let's keep it away from like spamming text and local chat, right? Like in-game methods of advertising I'm talking about. And that would come at a cost to the organization, or maybe even like the members, the leaders of an organization, or maybe they would introduce some sort of like organizational dues. So they pay into like a slush fund for all the members pay into a slush fund for an organization that can be used for stuff like that. Or is that approaching kind of reality too much, given how everybody feels about advertising in the real world? So kind of curious to hear your thoughts on that, guys. Tractor beam. So they mentioned tractor beam. Everyone loves tractor beams, right? Do you guys think, in the name of immersion, right? Do you guys think when you I see something out, and I'm assuming this is yes, just a flat yes, because Chris always says, that mountain over there, you can get to it. That's actually there. You know, good job. But I'm wondering if even the smaller stuff is going to be on that kind of scale too, meaning I'm in my ship, I'm sitting in my ship, and I tractor beam a package or a tool or something that blew up in a ship. I tractor beam that into my ship, right? Can I actually watch, if there was another person in my ship, right? Could they actually watch it come into tractor beam it into, and then dump into a bin, and bam, that is the actual physical game element that was in space 30 seconds earlier, right? I'm assuming that's a yes, but if that's a yes, boom, props. That's a big step toward immersion. You know what I mean? So I was just kind of wondering on that. something that popped in my head while they were talking about tractor beams. The mining stuff. So the mining example, you can kind of, they mentioned you can go out and find some rare ore, which actually, it actually kind of inspired me to do a separate series on Star Citizen. I think I'm gonna start collecting a lot of the information about how you can differentiate yourself, or who you can be in Star Citizen to kind of stand out from the crowd. I want to start kind of collecting that, because that's kind of what I'm most interested in. That led me to the question when they brought up you find a valuable deposit of ore, right? Can you take measures to protect that ore deposit aside from hiring help? You know, one, help is going to be expensive, especially for like 24 hours round the clock help. Is there going to be a method of kind of protecting your ore in game? Like, can they not just kill me and take the ore? You know what I mean? Like, is there going to be methods to kind of protect that and make it unique? Like, I have rights to this land for 24 hours or 48 or whatever. I'm just kind of curious on the in-game functionality to handle stuff like that. Or is it just screw it, you're screwed? You know what I mean? You got to do what you got to do to kind of protect it. Can some mining be done outside of your ship and in person? Is there any kind of automatic mining type things that are planned that you can lay down and you can't destroy it, someone else can't destroy them, or for some reason? Like, just trying to think of how they could work that. Last thing I'll mention is there, and this kind of comes out of the dynamic weather systems that they introduced. Because I was thinking, if I go down to a surface of a planet and I run away from my ship and I'm 5 kilometers away from my ship and I'm carrying back this massive thing of stuff that I just want to toss in my cargo bay, and this dust storm comes up and kicks my ass, right? Is there any way to prevent that? Meaning, ahead of time, is there any kind of meteorological, you know what I'm trying to say, role that a ship can take to scout or scan a planet ahead of time for kind of harmful weather systems? I'm just thinking of, like, you can actually fly around maybe and see the clouds, you know, dust clouds or the weather systems form from space or from the atmosphere, but that's going to take a long time. You know, Chris has always said it's going to take a while to get around a planet, right? So is there any kind of scanning or scouting that a ship or some module can do, even if it's a sacrifice, you know what I mean? So you have a specific meteorological scanning ship that's part of your scavenging fleet that's out front. You see a planet, it does this job, it scans for weather systems and says, good to go, let's go. The scanning module for weather is like, it's a sacrifice. You have to take out a different module to get that in. Like, even if that's the case, I'm just kind of curious if there's anything in place to do that. Anyway, that's kind of the extent of the questions I had. If you guys have any of the answers, please leave a comment. I'd love to talk all this stuff through. Also, if you guys know, aside from like the Squadron 42 stuff, I'm kind of interested to see what you guys thought in terms of why or why not you liked CitizenCon. Kind of curious to see, aside from the Squadron 42 stuff, why it may not have lived up to your expectations, or if you just loved it as much as I do. I mean, let me hear that too. Yeah, so appreciate you guys watching. As I said, I'm going to actually be doing a reaction video to the Around the Verse stuff, which has to do with Squadron 42, which, like everybody else, I'm kind of equally interested in. So until then, I'll see you around the verse, guys.